Hey guys, very good morning, very good evening.
Hello everyone.
Hey guys, very good evening. So we welcome you uh, in the Pune user group meet. So we are waiting for Russell. So before he will join, so let's start. We are in the top of the hour, so we can start the things. So as we are Splunker, so I would like to introduce our group. So we are Pune Splunk user group. So we have started this user group. It's been a year almost. So it's been our eighth meetup. We having eighth meetup today. So today we are going to talk about Splunk clouds. So what's new, what's different over here. So it's all about us. We have invited Russell Uman. So he's from this Splunk and he's going to talk about uh, how Splunk Cloud works, and he's going to demo a few things about Splunk Clouds. So before he joins, and we are going to start. So for first 5 minutes, we just do some introductory session. So it's like it's open session for everyone. So you can unmute yourself and you can introduce so that we have some community interactions. Over there, what we are expecting, like your name, what you are doing right now, and how you got to know about Splunk and about your Splunk journey. So platform is open, so you can ask any questions. So you can introduce yourself. So it's I just want to make this forum as a open for next 5 to 10 minutes. So after that, we can start the sessions on the AWS. So you can introduce yourself on the chat, and if you don't have any audio, if you are not like don't want to use audio, else you can unmute your mics and you can start this introduction phase.
So shall I start?
Yes, sir, please.
Yes. Yeah, so myself, Muhammad Rafiq Siddiqui. I've been in Splunk for more than 7 years of experience in Splunk on-prem, where I'm looking both of them, looking after the Splunk environment with new data suite onboarding, uh, working around, playing with enterprise security, and all kind of stuff, which is closely to the on-prem environment. I'm just looking forward to explore more areas in Splunk Cloud, that how it has been built and how it is different from on-prem environment. So that is I'm looking forward. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Maybe I can go next. Hello, everyone. My name is Keshav. I'm a part of this Pune leader group. I have been working on Splunk for the last 6 odd years, with an overall IT experience of more than 8 years. Currently working with a manufacturing company based out of France. But yeah, my location would primarily be Pune, India. And I have worked on premise, on Splunk Cloud, native SaaS, all kinds. The last that I worked on Splunk Cloud was 7.2. So maybe in this session there will be lot more to learn. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it as well. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Keso.
Hello team, Gauri here. So I'm working with Splunk from day one of my career. So it's been a 4+ year working with Splunk, but I was totally into Splunk Enterprise till now. And I didn't get a chance to work on Splunk Cloud. So hopefully this session will be much fruitful to me. And that too, since we have Russell over here who is going to explain. So yeah, we will enjoy that.
Yeah, so thanks. So there is one note for Gauri as well. She had recently gave Beside Talks, so you can follow her in LinkedIn. So you can see she has recently had a nice session on Beside Talks. So it is a Splunk trust member talk. So you can go there and you can explore these things. So thanks, Gauri. So we have Hassan Sheikh joining us from Brisbane, Australia. Thanks, Hassan. So we have a couple of people here. So we have 2 more minutes before we start. So before I will hand over to my guest, Russell, I just want to make sure like everyone should introduce if they want, else it's fine. Okay, it looks no one is interested. So I think we should jump into the next piece. So I would like to welcome you all in our eighth meetup. So we are Splunk Pune user group. So we have started around 1 year ago. It's been a year for us, and we are hosting our eighth meetup. So today we are going to talk about Splunk Cloud, what is new, what is different. So we are joined by Russell Uman. He's a Splunk Trust member and working with Splunk uh, from last couple of years. Not couple of years, it's been a long time with Splunk. So he's a cloud advocate and he's taking care of all the enablement related to clouds in the AWS, in the GCP and other things. So before I will hand over the session to Oman, so we have few things like we are in a meetup, so we have few rules, regulations. So this is our team. So these are our community leaders. We have Sumit, we have that's me. Then we have a Gauri, Nadeem, Kesav, and Riddhi and Rafiq. So these are the people who are making these things possible. Someone is doing PPT, someone is doing recording, someone is writing some scripts and all these things. So I would like to thank you to all the readers who are working on this user group. So these are our rules. So you can join our Slack channel. So it's here. So you can go to Splunk Slack. Over there you can find for Splunk Pune user group. So you can use both ways. You can just ask your question into the Slack as well as you can ask the question into Google Meet. But make sure if you are getting answers over the chats, so you can save it because after the meeting that everything is and we are going to, you can follow us. We have 6 to 7 recordings available from last few user group meets, so you can go there, you can explore there. And I would like to know, like, if you have any topics you want to cover us or you want to present us in our Spring user group. So these are the few rules we have. And now I would like to hand over this thing to Russell. So he's going to talk about Splunk Cloud Basics. So what's new and different, and what are the strengths in Splunk Cloud? So over to you, Russell.
Hey there. Good evening, everyone. Let's see. Let me figure out how to present. All right.
Yeah, I can see you. I can hear
Great.
myself.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it looks fine.
Great. And can you see my screen? Is the screen share working?
Yes, it's perfect.
Wonderful. All right. Hello. Welcome to What's New and Different in Splunk Cloud. You'll have to tell me if it's strange or not at the end of the presentation. Thanks very much to Rohit for the opportunity to present to you today, and it's great to see Gauri and Niranjan here. Hi. It's very early for me, so I'm going to do my best to be wide awake. Can you just, can folks let me know if they're currently a Splunk Cloud customer? Okay, okay.
Yeah, Russell. We are in that phase where we are managing. We are about to migrate to Splunk Cloud. So we are looking forward that how it is feasible from on-prem to moving to Splunk Cloud, how the costing effect, and what are the vendor you are covering, whether Splunk Cloud is over AWS or Azure or a GCP.
I'm not going to talk about any of the specific differences between AWS and GCP. There are a few features that I think aren't available on GCP yet, but for the most part, they are they work the same, and we don't have any offering on Azure yet. All right. Well, let's talk about cloud. This is my boilerplate forward-looking statement slide. I'm going to talk about the future in this talk, but I can't see the future, and I don't really have any control over it. So please don't be surprised if things don't work out exactly how I said they would. This is me. I'm invisible. I've been at Splunk since 2012. I used to run docs.splunk.com. Then I moved to Splunk Cloud, and I ran the Splunk instance that Splunk Cloud uses to Splunk all of the other Splunk instances. It's like infinite regression of Splunk. And I'm currently a data engineer for the Cloud Business Operations team, where we use Splunk to analyze the GCP and AWS costs, and then correlate those costs with product behavior and user behavior, so that we can try to make things run cheaper and better. So this might not be a surprise to anyone, but I think it's worth sort of reiterating that Splunk Cloud is a service. And that's kind of fundamentally different than Splunk Enterprise when you run it yourself. And so this means that we run it for you. This is, I guess, the primary value proposition of Splunk Cloud. We run all the parts. We make sure they're available. We protect the data. We handle the outages and upgrades and disaster recovery. You're still responsible for sending the data in, right? You might use HTTP event collector. You might run a bunch of forwarders. You might even still maintain an intermediate forwarder, heavy forwarder layer if you need to do a lot of interesting data transformation. Some customers have also on-premises use cases that just won't work in cloud. And for them, we can do hybrid or federated search between a customer-managed Splunk and on one side and a cloud Splunk on the other to make that work. So what this means, the corollary here is that since we're running Splunk for you, you can't run it yourself. You might know a lot about running Splunk. You might know more than the folks you're talking to on the support side. They'll hopefully listen to you if you tell them exactly what's going wrong. But you can't get in there and fix things with your own two hands because we won't let you. So that means that you don't have any shell access. You can't edit config files directly on the server. You can't restart Splunk. You can't rsync apps over or use something like Ansible or SaltStack to deploy apps or configurations. You can't deploy apps with deployment servers, and you have no access to the command line interface. It's a profoundly different way of interacting with Splunk than you're used to if you've been running Splunk on premises. We also don't let you touch the indexer tier at all for security reasons. All the configuration that you're going to do in cloud happens on the search head via the user interface or API or app install. Because admin role can do a lot of things that we don't want cloud customers to do, we also have a limited admin role called scadmin that lacks the capabilities that allow, for example, clustering configuration. And so I just want to demonstrate that quickly. Go over to roles. And we look at scadmin. So we're missing a lot. All of these boxes would be checked for admin, I think. You can't back up and restore apps to the UI. You can't dispatch REST to the indexers. You can't do deployment client stuff. You can't edit the indexer cluster, etc. So since you can only access the search head, how do configurations make it over to the indexer tier if you want to edit an index or do
Russell,
some index? Yes.
Could I ask maybe a dumb question, but just I'll
Please.
ask it anyway.
Yeah.
Is it possible to have a cluster on premise with a cluster in Splunk Cloud and have a multi-site?
Yes. There's two ways to do it. Traditionally, we've done hybrid search, where the search head on the on-premises side is configured to search over the indexer cluster. And we're trying to replace that with the federated search feature that we just released in 8.2. With federated search, instead of the search head talking to the on-prem search head talking to the cloud indexer cluster, the on-prem search head is going to talk to the cloud search head.
Gotcha.
And it sort of lets access control and concurrency limits stay in sync between the two sides. So yes,
fantastic.
you can absolutely do that.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
No, thank you for calling that. Thank you.
All right, so how do configurations make it over to the indexer tier? In cloud, some of the management pages look the same but behave differently. They call cloud-specific APIs that basically send configuration over to the cluster management node, which then deploys them out to the indexers. So this is true for index, HTTP event collector, and index time source type props configurations. And so if we go over and look at the indexes management page, this is actually manager DMs. That's interesting. Yeah, so if I were to save this, it would hit a completely different API endpoint than is hit on the on-prem side and send this over to the cluster. For whatever reason, the cloud-specific APIs that those management pages call are not documented, and they're not supported for customer use, which is annoying. Cloud also doesn't allow local file monitors or TCP UDP inputs. And there are a bunch of other minor differences for various Splunk features, which are detailed in the docs. And I will give Rohit a PDF to post in the Slack channel once this presentation is done, so that you can click on the links. Let's see. And so if we look at this is my on-prem cloud. If we go ahead and look at the data inputs page, we've got, oh, this is not my cloud. I'm lying to you. There we go. Okay, if we look at data inputs page here, we've got files and directories, TCP, UDP. But over on the cloud side, all we've got is HTTP event collector. So different story. I leave this out of my presentation. Yeah, the other thing that's interesting about inputs is that you can't run any inputs at all on the search head. We give you a separate instance called the inputs data manager, on which you can run scripted inputs and modular inputs. So anyway, because of all these limitations for configuration management, app install becomes a lot more important for managing configuration. If you weren't leveraging apps heavily, now you will want to really turn your focus towards apps in Splunk Cloud. There are some things that can only be configured in an app. For example, index time transforms. There's no user interface for that, and there's no API to do that that's supported in cloud that'll like actually ship the configuration off to the indexer tier. So you've got to do it with an app. Unlike the index management pages, app install in cloud is run by a separate app called DMC. If you've been around Splunk for a while, that's confusing because we used to call the monitoring console DMC or distributed monitoring console, but now we just call the monitoring console MC, or in cloud it's CMC for cloud monitoring console. That's clear, right? Anyway, for security and compliance reasons, we also have to ensure that the apps you install on cloud are safe, and so every app needs to pass cloud app vetting. This app vetting is done by the App Inspect program, which you can learn more about in the dev.splunk.com docs. And so you'll notice that the private app install page is different in cloud because it sends the app through App Inspect before you can install it. And you need to give it your Splunk.com credentials so that it can log in and do that App Inspect. So once again, here on the customer managed side, we go to Manage Apps, fill out from file. It just says, hey, go ahead, upload an app. On the cloud side, manage apps. This is where we have a new app here, right? We're not in the management app, we're in the DMC app. And we go to uploaded apps. And we upload an app. It's going to ask you for your Splunk.com username and password. So do this. Make sure that it's a real password and get a token. And now once I drop the file here, it'll do an app inspect. Actually, do I have another app that I can do here? All right, let's try this. And so once you've uploaded it, it's spinning and spinning while it's vetting cloud. Once that hits approved, then you can install the app. And there's an install log so you can sort of see where you're at. So it's a slightly different workflow. Splunk-based apps, apps with scripts need to be manually vetted. So if you have a custom command or a mod input or a mod alert, you can't install it yourself right now via private apps, but you have to file a support ticket for folks to manually vet the app and then install it on the back end for you. Likewise, if you want to install a Splunk-based app, that app has to be marked cloud compatible. So here's the add-on for AWS, and it is compatible with Splunk Cloud. And that means over here, when I go to install apps, the app shows up here. And if we didn't have that cloud compatible flag, it wouldn't show up here at all. I go back a page by mistake. Yep. All right. All right. License violations. A lot of people ask if their data will be lost if they exceed license limits, and the answer is no. We're the data to every company, and we want you to send all your data to Splunk. We're never going to throw it away. But if you consistently exceed your license limits for ingest or for retention by a lot, eventually your account team will talk to you about increasing your license. Workload licensing can help here on the ingest side. Now I want to compare sort of how we set up indexes on the cloud side with how we do it on the prem side, because it's a bit different. So on premises, when you add a new index, you have a lot of choices to make. You can set the database path. You can enable or disable data integrity. You can set the size of the index, and this size here is the size on disk. So it's you've ingested the data, you've compressed the raw data, you've added the index files, you've added the metadata or the Bloom filters. That's the size that you're controlling here, because you on premises you care about how much storage you actually have available for the data. And you can do TSIDX reduction or not. On the cloud side, it's a lot simpler. Much less stuff here. But what you're controlling here is max raw data size. So it's not the final compressed size of the data. It's the size of the data you ingest, because that's how you pay for retention. When we do licensing for retention, you're saying, okay, we're going to be able to keep, typically we do 30 days. So if you can ingest 10 terabytes a day, then you're going to have 300 terabytes of retention. And that is the raw. Both of those are metered in the raw data size that you send in. Yep. And so if you want to make sure that your data never gets thrown away, you can set searchable time days to 0 and max raw data size to 0. Maybe you can't set this to 0. Maybe this needs to be like some ridiculously large number. But that way, we'll just sort of keep your data around forever, but we will eventually try to charge you for it. Sorry, does anyone have a question?
Russell, if we put 10 GB as max data and we ingest only 2 GB, so we would be charged for 2 GB or 10 GB?
You are going to be charged for the 10 GB that you've licensed for retention in that case. I don't think we have sort of on-demand metered licensing for retention yet. Yeah.
So basically we have a few indexes which send around a lot of data on weekends, and a few and the same indexes send a very less data on the weekdays. So yep. What provision do you have for this kind of data?
For that, you're going to want to look at workload licensing. So we have this new licensing style that we're really fond of, for some customers, especially for customers with bursty data patterns. This license is going to work a lot better. Instead of paying for the amount of data that you ingest, you pay for a max quota, I guess, of data that you're ingesting. You pay for the amount of compute resources that we deploy for you in the indexing tier and the search tier. And we tend to over provision a little bit, so you already have some capacity to burst. And so if you switch to workload licensing, you can ingest as much data as you want. You can hammer the system with huge amounts of data on the weekend when no one is using search, for example, which it sounds like that's what you're doing. And then you can lighten up during the week so that search has more CPU on the search peer side. So definitely talk to your account team about workload licensing.
Thanks, Russell.
Sure. Okay. And so then when you do get into a situation where you care about your retention and maybe want to reduce it, let's see. The cloud monitoring console on cloud is a little bit different than the monitoring console on premises as well. So if you go to indexes and storage, you're going to see here by index how much stuff you have in it. And the index size GB, again, is the raw data stored, right? Whereas on the premises side, you don't really have the same panel. But we can get indexes and volumes. And here, index usage, current size of the index. This is, again, the actual size on disk. It has nothing to do with the raw size. It's probably, it's quite compressed, but then also with the index files added. All right, new features on Splunk Cloud. I'll talk about a couple, and I'll talk about some of the ones that we have coming down the pipeline. First one are the two dynamic data features. For the data you no longer need in Splunk, we've got two cloud-only features to help you manage it. Dynamic data self-storage rolls data off into the S3 bucket that you control. You can do anything you want with the data at that point. You can just keep it for archival purposes. You can load it into a data lake. You can spin up an on-prem Splunk to look at it if you need to. And then we also have dynamic data auto archive, which rolls the data off into a storage system that Splunk controls. And then you can restore data from that archive into your cloud stack temporarily if you need to do a historical investigation. And currently, all this runs through the indexes management page. And I've already set this up here on the main index, but so I can do self-storage. And for that, you have to set up a self-storage location, which is your own S3 bucket. So let's make a bucket. Okay, 6 character. And it needs a special prefix. So now I get a policy. If I have an S3 bucket and I attach this policy to it, then our archive service is going to be able to put objects into it. And if we do archive, then we can select a retention period for the data in that archive. And once you've set that up, you have this restore button. There's no restore history table here because I haven't actually rolled anything over to it. But for restores, I can pick a time range for this index, optionally exclude recent data, see how much data it is, and restore it. Don't actually know what happens after you've restored the data, how it gets cleaned up again. But I think it stays around for a week or something. And then the next cloud-only feature I'll talk about is admin configuration service. This cannot do a lot yet, but it is intended to eventually sort of grow into being a cloud API that can do all the configuration things, both on the Splunk stack and not on the Splunk stack. So right now, the only thing you can do with it is IP allow lists. The next feature is HEC token management. And after that, it's sort of the other APIs that don't exist in cloud, like the index management and the search time properties. And following that, they're going to do a API for app install, so that you can automate app install. But again, eventually it'll sort of grow into a modern collection of REST API endpoints that you can fully automate. And so the way we normally work with, we like to work with REST stuff at Splunk is with the Postman Service. And so this is, I have a different Splunk instance with ACS set up for HEC management. And so I can send a request in and get a list of all of my tokens. I can get an individual HEC token. Let's see. And once I've done that, I can update that token. Maybe I can say, don't want to allow write to Magnum Meta anymore, and send it over. But you can completely automate this. This uses the tokens. So if we go over here to users and not tokens, we can make these tokens that are bound to a user. So when ACS runs, it's going to have the capabilities of that user. I'm not sure how that'll play out. I imagine they're assuming that you're going to give it an SE admin user in the first place. And the tokens have expiration. So there's some kind of dance you're going to have to do with generating tokens to feed into your automation system to run against the admin configuration service. And that's all I have for you today. Features that are forthcoming. We have a new version of indexer cluster management that doesn't actually have a traditional cluster management node. The doc sort of hinted it right now, and I don't even know what we're going to name it. But it solves about half of the problems with app install we have in cloud right now. Everything that currently requires a support ticket to install, except for manual checks, will be self-installable, self-serviceable with the new cluster management system. And then the second part of that, the manual checks will go away as we deploy a new app sandboxing system and I guess better ways of handling exceptions to manual vetting. DSP is going to appear in a cloud version called Stream Processing Service, so that pretty much everyone in cloud will have the opportunity to use DSP to bring data in. And we also have a replacement for the KV store called KV Service coming, which is backed differently, is going to be quite a bit more reliable.
Okay.
So that's it. Any
Thanks.
questions? I'm happy to answer. Hey, Aleem.
Hey, I haven't seen you without your fez in so long. I didn't realize you're looking good.
Thank you very much. I could put it on if anyone wants me to.
Find mine today. That was awesome. Loved it. So, Russell, would you recommend people have a look
Any
at the cloud training that's available on Splunk Education? Is that a good next step to learn?
Yes, I've heard decent things about it. I haven't actually taken it, so I will cautiously recommend it. Yeah.
Is anybody on the
I will
call?
also,
I'm curious. If anybody on the call has taken that training? No, just curious. I haven't taken it yet. Yeah.
Sounds like no. I'll also recommend for folks who are planning to migrate to cloud and are curious about configuration management. Again, at B-Sides, there was a Splunker, a sales engineer, who presented a Git-based CI/CD system for deploying apps to Splunk Cloud. That was super interesting. Sorry, do we have something in chat? Nope. Okay, well, I'll hand it back to Rohit. Thank you very much, everyone.
Rohit, are you in? Rohit, Gauri?
Hey, I guess Rohit is having internet issues.
Oh.
Okay. Rohit, can you hear us? Okay. So thank you, Russell, for your valuable time.
Yes, thank you. I had some issues.
Back.
I had one question. Now, I was just expecting that maybe someone from the audience would have something, but anyway, it's so for enterprise, I know that there is this no enforcement license. So even if you have license warnings, or even if you end up violating the license, there is there is still no, as you mentioned, that the data is not really lost in cloud. So does the cloud by default, does the cloud license by default work as a no enforcement license, or does it have categories?
Yeah, it basically works like the no enforcement license. You're never going to get into a situation where cloud is telling you that you can't search because you have 5 violations and you need to get a reset. So yeah, I think for the no enforcement license in cloud, on premises, you have to agree to send a certain amount of telemetry data over to Splunk, which is what they use to monitor your usage, so that they can have that conversation with you if you're going over about increasing your license. In cloud, we're getting the same telemetry, so I think we extend the same favor automatically.
Okay, and is there a tolerance? Like, for example, if we go up above by 5%, then it's fine. Otherwise, it's not. Is there a tolerance defined for that?
Yes, but your mileage may vary, right? It depends on the relationship you have with your account team. Likewise, if you are As the other uh, gentleman was asking, if you are bursting ingest on the weekends, but then you're way below your license during the days of the week, like I imagine you could negotiate that as normal behavior, and they'd have no problem. But I do not actually know how much slack there is in the system. I just know that there's a fair amount. We're definitely not chasing down every megabyte that you go over.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a question around here. So how infra is like, we have, let's if we are moving from on premises to cloud. So at the time, if we have a large number of indexer layer in on premises, let's say 100 or 200 or something like that. So how it is managed? Like, so we have any counting or something like that in the cloud systems?
Sorry, Rohit, you cut out a bit for me. Could you repeat the question one more time?
I'm saying like how, if I have to move whole indexer cluster of, let's say 100 node.
I've lost you again. Do you want to try asking in chat?
Cluster or 200 node cluster to cloud. So how that infra will be managed in the cloud system? Like we have a different capacity of indexers, like a host.
So Rohit, I think we lost you for a while there. So Russell, I think what he's asking is how are a certain number of indexers managed within the Splunk cloud environment? If there are like hundreds or 200s of indexers, how does that management happen?
Sure. Indexers are deployed, or the number of indexers and the size of the indexers deployed are based on your license, right? So if you're doing ingest licensing, then the larger your license, the more indexers we are going to deploy. So if you, if you have a 30 terabyte license, and you have 30-day retention, we're gonna expect you to ingest 1 terabyte per day. And so we'll give you enough indexers to ingest probably 2 terabytes a day. There's quite a bit of over provisioning in cloud right now because we want things to be, we want bursts to be acceptable without completely ruining the search experience, right? But we have a table. And likewise, if you're doing workload management, then you are sort of directly licensing what we call SVCs or Splunk virtual CPUs, and those kind of relate directly into the AWS or GCP instances that we're going to deploy. One of the interesting things about the new indexer cluster management technology I was talking about is that it finally does some auto scaling. So it will scale indexers down when you are ingesting less, and then scale them up potentially past your standard limit when you're bursting. So you get a little bit more capacity. How we actually deploy the indexers, we have an internal provisioning system called CloudWorks. I think I gave a talk about it at the Boston user group a month or two ago, that records the details of the stack architecture in Terraform and Puppet, and ensures that things are in place. Likewise, we use autoscaling groups are equivalent, so that if an indexer dies, a new one is spun up. And because we're using Smart Store, it's relatively painless when that happens. There's some cluster instability, but it's not horrific. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
I have one more. I'm sorry, I should have asked probably all at once. Russell, this is Keshav again. So when it comes to the total cost of ownership for, let's say, so you would be probably talking to several customers who want to begin their cloud journey and are trying to move from on-premise to either Splunk SaaS, or they have either GCP or Azure, one of those solutions in mind. So have there been studies from your end where a customer could validate, because you of course say that the SLAs would be in excess of 99%, for example. So, of course, on that front, the customers are happy. But when it comes to the total cost of ownership, have there been studies that Splunk SaaS is actually a more economical solution as compared to, for example, Azure, which would be under the control of the customers?
Yep. I'm sure we do, and I will see what I can find, and I'll post it in the Slack user group later today. I'm sure we have a white paper on this. What it comes down to, I think, is how much you're going to spend internally on human resources to manage the cluster, and what level of reliability you're going to get for the amount of money that you spend on those human resources. Because we are doing Splunk at scale for thousands of customers, I think we make our money in the margins of really lowering the unit cost of running a certain number of indexers for a customer. We also have huge negotiating leverage with AWS and GCP, so we're paying less than you. But for the most part, it's those human resources that you're going to save on, and that really, it's not just a financial question; it's also an organizational question, right? If you have a large team of administrators running Splunk, and then you switch to Splunk Cloud, you're going to have a bunch of administrators that now need to do something else. And maybe that means that they can actually work on the data side and help you bring more value from your data. Or maybe that means that you reduce. But I'm sorry, I can't. Those are sort of my impressions. I can't answer that question with evidence, and I will find the white paper for you and post it later today if I can.
Okay, great. Thanks, Russell. Maybe I leave it to the audience then if anyone else has questions for Russell. Or anything that you would like to talk about. I take silence as a no. Gauri, maybe I think then we are good to close.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you team for joining, and thank you so much Russell for such a wonderful knowledge, and hopefully I'll be also working. I'll start working also on the cloud soon. And one more announcement, guys. So we do have the next meetup on 24th June, same time, 6 p.m. IST, and that will be on CIM data model by our team, Bits.io. So please do RSVP and try to join the session. Also, if you have your friends, colleagues who are more into Splunk, so bring them here and we will have a lot of fun once again. So till then, take care, bye-bye, and stay safe.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you.
Cheers, Russell. Awesome. Thanks, everyone.